Back to Miller. Oh my goodness.
Herbert.
Sidearm sling, and it's a touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, good spin move by Filipowski for the news. Give him 9.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beef Up Front podcast here on Pick Swap Media. Your host, Ryan Coyle, joined alongside Joe Kmetz for our weekly college football preview show, where we preview the 5 best games, and then we throw in the best group of 5 game as well. Joe, we're coming off a great week of games if we want to recap that a little bit. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit said it best after that Oregon-Washington thriller. Like, he said, I love the NFL. I love all types of football, but, you know, nothing compares to this. College football is the best, and that Oregon-Washington game, we said it last week, hope it lived up to the hype, and it certainly did, and more, I think. And then this week, we have another huge game on tap that we'll be getting into in just a couple of minutes between Penn State and Ohio State. If that can live up to any type of the hype that Washington-Oregon game did, I think we're in for another really great week of games. We have a loaded schedule again to dive into. But as always, Joe, welcome back, and how are we?
Coyle, as always, and fantastic. Thank you, as always, for having me on. You said it best. And Kirk Herbstreit, college football is second to none in my opinion. I love football. Even though I hate to say it, I love the Jets, even though they drive me crazy. So the Jets are probably my favorite team. But even, not to bring up, bad memories for you, even when we beat you guys, I was happy. But it wasn't like, when you see a college football upset, fans weren't rushing the field. There weren't, New York City was kind of like, oh, awesome. But then the next morning it was kind of dead. You get a big win in a college town, that carries you for weeks. That makes some schools seasons. Like when Purdue beat Ohio State in 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That Purdue fans can talk about that win for the rest of their lives. Big wins in college football are second to none. Big games in college football, knock on wood, deliver most of the time. Obviously, the USC Notre Dame game, Notre Dame pulled a Notre Dame and destroyed them when their season was completely over. It was just so frustrating because I called it and I knew immediately. I was leaving a restaurant, the game was on. I saw Caleb Williams throw the pick, and I'm like, game's over. Notre Dame already won. But when the big games in college football deliver, there's nothing quite like it. Penn State, Ohio State, which we're going to get into in a minute, should be, knock on wood again, should be a great game. I think it will live up to the hype. These are two very good teams. But even, we have on tap, I'm going to kind of spoil the slate a little bit, Tennessee, Alabama. Huge elimination game for both of these teams. Bama with 1 loss, Tennessee with 1 loss. Even later on for Duke goes to Florida State. We have that game on here as well. Big game for Duke. Duke needs to win if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. And yes, football playoff hopes, not basketball playoff hopes. I know the college basketball season's right around the corner, which I'm looking forward to very much. But, right now we're in the peak of college football. It doesn't get much better than this. We've also been spoiled. There have been some years where, you have a big week, then it's followed by an absolute dud. We've had great games and great slates, it feels like, every week since the second week of the season.
Yeah, and like you're saying, I think it's just going to continue to get better too. We saw it last week. I think that game between Washington and Oregon was kind of the appetizer for down the stretch of what we're going to see in the Pac-12 the rest of the way. I think we're going to get some awesome games. They've definitely been our most discussed conferences here. But just to recap last week real quick, we both had nice weeks. I went 11-6-1, 4-2 straight up on the picks, 4-1-1 against the spread. A nice number there, 3-3 on the total. Banned myself from giving out the lock of the week, even though I hinted at, it being the USC over, and that wound up hitting. But I didn't make the official play, so that won't count. I did go 1-0 on my dog of the day, my first outright money line dog of the season. I had Oklahoma State taking down Kansas at home. Cowboys were able to get that one done. Joe, you went 10-7-1, 5-1 straight up, 3-2-1 against the spread, 2-4 on the total. 1-0 on your lock of the week. I believe that is 7 of your last 8 locks of the week with UNC minus 3.5 hitting. And then 0-1 on your dog of the day. I think it was Western Michigan. I forget what the score of that game was, but that was a loser, right?
Yes, that was a loser almost immediately because I bet the spread. I didn't touch a money line. I like looked down at my phone. I think it was like 14-0 Miami of Ohio, like 5 minutes in. And I was like, all right, well, that's over. And I kind of pushed her off to the side. Not great. We're actually, another spoiler, we're talking about Miami of Ohio this week, but dogs, I might have to ban myself from giving out dogs pretty soon because I believe I've only hit one, and that was only because it was the first week of the season, and I think my dog was like San Jose State spread or something like that. So it
No, I
wasn't.
think you might have had San Diego State over Ohio.
Yeah, but I think they were favored. Like I don't even. Whatever, regardless of what it was a dog on the name alone because.
Oh yeah, it was that because we only had 6 matchups or something.
Yeah, so
7 matchups.
that was my only dog so far this season. I haven't hit a straight up bet ever since Texas Tech blew the game and the cover against Oregon. It's been completely downhill. Because I had Toledo week 1 as well when Illinois hit the game on the field goal.
All right, well, this is probably, I think, the rest of the way, one of the 5 most anticipated matchups left on the rest of the college football calendar. And it's a Big Ten battle. It will be on noon. Big noon kickoff on Fox. A little bit annoying that this game isn't at least at like 3:30. But this is the 12 o'clock game that is going to get people to the TVs for sure. So number 7, Penn State, traveling to Columbus to play number 3, Ohio State. Both teams undefeated coming into the matchup. Noon kickoff on Fox. Ohio State is a 4.5-point favorite. Over under is 47.5. Joe, can the Nittany Lions go to Columbus and pull off the W?
I do not think they can be. I'm going Ohio State 28, Penn State 24. So I'm going to take Penn State to cover that 4.5. I believe they'll cover by the hook. I'm going to take the over in this game. I don't know. I just got a feeling this game's going to go over. Maybe not by a lot, but the over being 47.5. I think that's a little bit low, even though, Big Ten game, I could totally see this game also ending up like 14-10 or something like that. But I think the big 3 in the East are going to go 1-1, all rotating at home. I think Ohio State's going to beat Penn State. I think Penn State's going to beat Michigan at home, and I think Michigan's going to beat Ohio State at home. I believe that's just going to be how it goes. I think these 3 teams are so evenly matched up. I think truly the difference is just going to be, the home crowd and the home field advantage. Ohio State has already gotten, to play really, big boy football when they went to Notre Dame and ended up winning because Notre Dame had Jesus, as the 11th man out there trying to get a stop. But ever since then, I know it was cheesy with Ryan Day talking about where's Lou Holtz and talking about his team's toughness. But I do really believe that kind of unlocked, Ohio State's toughness in a way, because the one knock on Ohio State was always, they're built for shootouts. And, they can win games with finesse, but if a team mucks it up with them, they're going to struggle. Going to be another crappy weekend. I don't know if it's going to rain out in Ohio, but I know up here in New England, it's our 7th straight weekend with rain coming up. And so if it's a rainy game out there, it might be a little sloppy, but I think Ohio State can get it done. This is going to be an amazing game, Coyle. Like you said, I'm a little bit disappointed it isn't, at 3:30 or the night game, because there's nothing worse than the best game of the week being the first game of the week. Because then it's like, especially if this is a good game, it's going to end and we're going to be like, well, what do we do now? Now it's only 3:30. But that being said, I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm excited to see Drew Aller. This is his. Obviously, this is going to be Penn State's biggest test this season. Hope I said that right, Drew Aller. I think it's going to be a great game. I think McCord's going to, really silence some doubters, have a nice game as well. So give me Ohio State 28, Penn State 24.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it a little bit. Last week's, Washington-Oregon game, that was the game of the year in college football, and this one I think is receiving just as much hype. Even during the games last week, this commercial just kept popping up, game of the year, game of the year, game of the year, is what Fox has been calling it. But just a few quick, notes on this matchup and the history between these 2 teams. Ohio State has won the last 6 matchups in this rivalry, and they've won them by an average of 8 points per game. 2 of those wins came by exactly 1 point. Penn State has also not won in Columbus since 2011, and that year Ohio State only finished 6-7, so a very down year for the program standards in that year. I really like both of these teams because of the balance they have on both sides of the ball. I think if they want to play, like a 17-14 game like we saw with Notre Dame against Ohio State, they can do that. If they want to go play a 42-40 game, I think both teams are built that way to do that. Both teams are loaded with NFL prospects, and I think this is on paper like the most evenly matched they've been, kind of as you were touching on with Michigan in there as well. Loser of this game is going to have to win out to even have a chance at the playoff, but they're most likely not going to go to the Big Ten title game unless super chaos happens down the stretch with both of these teams still having to play Michigan. But when you think of Ohio State, typically, as you were saying, Joe, with the shootouts and stuff, this team, I think, heard all the noise and all the smoke that they're soft, and that's kind of what the program has been. And they've really taken that personal, and I think have really shifted their identity. I mean, this is two very good defenses in this game. I bet you if you looked at college football stats and stuff, you would not expect to hear that Penn State and Ohio State are the number 2 and 3 scoring defenses in the entire country. Penn State only allowing 8 points per game. Ohio State only allowing 9.67 points per game. Oh, yeah, and then Michigan is at first as well with the fewest points per game allowed. So for that reason, I'm taking the under in this one. I think it's a physical slugfest. 2 young quarterbacks. I think we see a lot of runs. Both quarterbacks, though, Joe, take very good care of the football. Drew Aller has not thrown in a pick this entire year or even in his limited playing time last year. And Kyle McCord has only thrown 1 interception this year. That was in the first game of the year against Indiana, and I remember it was like a 4th and 7 or something. I mean, he kind of just threw it up because it was a turnover on downs regardless. So these two quarterbacks don't put the ball in harm's way. So I think it's going to come down to if one of these young quarterbacks has the ball late and they're forced to make, a tough throw where they might have to put it in harm's way. I think that could be the difference, which team's able to get the turnover. But with all that being said, I'm going to take Ohio State to win it outright just due to that home field like you were touching on. And they do have that Notre Dame game under their belt. They've shown the ability to win a close game against a really good team. Penn State's won every game this year by 17 or more, haven't really been tested yet. West Virginia's been better than expected. They beat them pretty handily. Illinois was able to go beat Maryland last week, but they're not that great of a team. This is Penn State's really first test, and I think Ohio State already had that huge battle earlier in the season. I kind of prepared them for this game. So I think the stage is just a little too big right now for Penn State. So I think Ohio State gets it done, but I will thread the needle with Penn State to cover. I'll take them plus that 4.5. I'm going to go Ohio State 21, Penn State 17. So Penn State plus the 4.5 and the under 47.5. And with a loss in this one, James Franklin will fall to 1-9 in his career against Ohio State. So what would be a big blow to the program and the momentum they're building there, especially if they're not able to beat Michigan down the stretch too. But, this is a game that Penn State, I think, has been building towards. It'll be interesting to see if they go on the road and get it done. All right, second game of the week. This is our I was looking at the schedule earlier in the week. I was like, oh, maybe this is a good pick for our group of 5 game. This is actually just going to be one of our big 5 games of the week. The Service Academy game between number 22 Air Force, who's at 6-0, at Navy, who's only 3-3. This is a noon kickoff on CBS. Air Force comes into this one as a 10-point favorite. Over-under is sitting at 37.5. Joe, Air Force or Navy in this one?
I'm taking Air Force big, and I'm also going to take the over. So I'm going to take Air Force 35, Navy 7. I think Air Force is that good. We've talked about them last week. Shout out Wyoming, dog hits last week. But Air Force, there's a reason why they're the 22nd best team in the country. I mean, they are. It kind of happens with the service academies every couple of years for each of them respectively. They build up, and they finally now have the pieces all together. And they end up being a really good team. Before COVID, Navy was. No, I'm not saying the words. I'm not saying the phrase. I'm just stating how they are having a very good season, and I think they're going to continue having a good season. Not going to say the phrase that cursed so many other teams. I just don't think Navy's that good. We got to see them. They've been on the show already this year when they played Notre Dame for week 0. But I mean, you look at their schedule; they haven't really. The new American Conference, by the way, complete side note, is just tough to look at. I mean, all the good teams have left. Like Navy's playing North Texas in a conference game. It's like, what are we doing here? They ended up beating North Texas. But, you look at their schedule, they got killed at Notre Dame, and they haven't really played anybody that's worth, even discussing. Like, I don't really know. I don't think this Navy team's very good. All the teams they beat aren't that great. I think 10 points might seem like a lot for the way these two teams run the triple option, but at least Air Force can, if necessary, throw the football. I'm not saying they throw it a lot, but when needed, they can. So Navy's going to have to respect that. I think Air Force is going to win this game pretty comfortably. The over might be asking for a little bit much, but I think Air Force can definitely cover that 10-point spread.
Yeah, I'm going to go Air Force as well to cover to 27-7. So I'll go Air Force -10. I'll go under 37.5. If you tune into this game, you kind of touched Joe. You're just going to see runs, and some more runs. Air Force is the number one team in the country with 334.2 rushing yards per game, and Navy is fifth with 235.7 rushing yards per game. Obviously, the way their offense is built, very run-heavy approach with the triple option, but when you look at Air Force, they're also outstanding at stopping the rush as well. I thought at first it was because, all right, maybe they only play so many snaps on defense just due to how much they control the ball on offense. But I look, they're not that far back in terms of overall like snaps and stuff against some other defenses. They're only allowing 77 rushing yards per game, which is fifth in the country. So if the Falcons can stop the midshipman rushing attack, it's hard to envision Navy moving the ball that much. Navy's 3 wins this year also come against Wagner, North Texas, and Charlotte, who have a combined record of 6-12. I think this Air Force team is legit, and their ability to stifle the Navy run game is just going to make it too hard for Navy to consistently move the ball down the field. So I'm going to take Air Force to cover as well, and I'll go with the under. I just don't think Navy's going to be able to score on this team. All right, third game of the week. We go to the SEC now for the first time this week. Number 17, Tennessee. At number 11, Alabama, 3:30 p.m. on CBS. Bama -9.5. Over under 48. And if I can't remember anything else off the top of my head, that Alabama-Tennessee game was my favorite game in college football last year. And I don't know if there was another one that stuck out to you the most, but when I think of last year's college football season, Tennessee pulling off that win, that was the one that sticks out to me.
In terms of regular season, I completely agree with you. In terms of overall, I mean, the TCU-Michigan playoff game, just because of how chaotic it was great. But, I mean, in terms of –
Ohio State was too.
Oh, yes, 100%. But like we said, in terms of big game, another big game that absolutely delivered. Tennessee looked dead in the water a couple times last year and ended up coming back and winning. However, this year, I think Bama is going to get revenge. I have Bama 26, Tennessee 17. A little bit of a weird score. Going to take Tennessee to cover the 9.5. I'm going to go under 48 just because the way Bama's been playing this year, they've been dominant for the most part, but they aren't, lighting up the scoreboard. Tennessee, I also just don't trust Joe Milton. I looked it up. I think he only is like 61% passing completion on the season. Even Tennessee, like I have it here, they're only averaging 212 yards passing per game. Like just a complete downturn from Hendon Hooker last year to Joe Milton. Tennessee fans were so excited with Joe Milton, thought, because everyone falls in love with Joe Milton because he can throw an orange 175 yards. It's like, great. But now let's try to throw a football through a tire. I don't think he's able to do that very consistently. He's just not an accurate quarterback. Nothing wrong with that. You see those all the time. But Tennessee fans trying to package him up at the beginning of the season and saying he was going to win the Heisman was a little bit crazy. I think Milroe is exactly what Alabama needs. And I think I said this a couple weeks ago when we talked about Alabama. He is a game manager. He can run, and he just is the perfect fit for an Alabama offense that's not trying to put up 50 a game. Last year when he was in that offense that Bryce Young was running, he didn't look good. The way that Nick Saban has catered the offense around him this year is just – it's been working so well for them. I think they're going to keep it rolling here. I'm really interested. I don't know if it's next week or in a few weeks when Alabama hosts – I believe it's a bye week, then they host LSU. That's Bama's biggest test. I think LSU is going to threaten them a lot more than Tennessee will, even though Tennessee is slightly higher ranked. Going Alabama here, even though I think 9.5 is just a bit much, but that's just based off of how Alabama plays the game. Give me the Tide.
Yeah, Joe, when you think of Tennessee over the past few years, Josh Heupel took over there, you think of just like high-powered offense, 100 snaps, let's throw the ball, get the ball snapped as much as we can. Let's go out there and try to put up 50, 60 points, get so many yards, get so many points, just wear the other team out. But this Tennessee team has just been the complete opposite of that. I mean, they're 18th in the country in scoring defense at only allowing 17 points per game. They're 20th in the country in rushing defense and 28th in passing defense. So this defense has been much improved from last year. It's a shame that they don't have last year's offense to pair with it. But offensively, they're not a team that's looking to throw the ball. Like you said with Joe Milton, he's been very up and down. Sometimes he'll be making those eye-popping wow throws, and then other times he'll be struggling. But when he's struggling, this team has shown the ability to really run the football. 6th best rushing offense in the country at 231.3 yards per game. So stylistically, this is actually a really good matchup for them against a Bama team that, as you're touching on, they've been banking on just strong defense and their running game all year, not like having a guy like Bryce Young and guys like Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, all those elite pass catchers that we've seen. This is a old school Alabama team that is winning with defense in the running game. So I think it's a good matchup actually for Tennessee that they can kind of go toe-to-toe with this Bama squad. So for that reason, I really like the under. I think both of these teams play very similar style. Kind of goes back to what we said about Penn State and Ohio State, where such great defenses and young quarterbacks. I think we're going to see some more, restraint. Let's be smart and let's try to limit possessions in this one. I think this one is just going to be lower scoring. It could be the first one of like 24 points wins. But Bama finds a way to win this one at home, I think. Last year was the first year since 2006 that Tennessee defeated Alabama, and Tennessee has not defeated Alabama in Tuscaloosa since 2003. So I'm going to roll with the trends here, take Alabama outright, but I will take Tennessee to cover. I think, like I said, stylistically, they match up well. I just don't think they have enough horses to win this game outright. So give me Tennessee plus the 9.5 in the under 48. I'll go Alabama 24, Tennessee 21. All right, our group of 5 game of the week. And sometimes when we're looking for these games, it's, slim pickings. But this one was one that actually kind of jumped off the page for the college football sickos. That's a Toledo team at 6-1. They're 3-0 in the MAC at Miami of Ohio, who's also 6-1 and 3-0 in the MAC. Their lone loss coming to Miami, Florida. I don't know off the top of my head Toledo's lone loss, but these are 2 very good MAC teams. 4:00 kickoff on ESPNU. Toledo's a 1-point road favorite, and the over-under is 50, and 2 opposite sides of the MAC. So this could be a potential title game preview as well.
Yeah, Coyle, it took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, an electric game in the MAC. Toledo's only loss was my dog week 1 when they lost to Illinois on the field goal. So that was a heartbreaker for the Rockets there. I mean, they were quite literally seconds away from potentially being 7-0 right now going into this game. But both teams looking ahead at their schedules, because I'm not going to lie, I don't know a lot about these teams. I'm going Miami of Ohio here 27-24, even though I really like Toledo as a team. But this is only because, and Coyle, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil your pick. Coyle and I'm going different than him on this game just to, kind of help me a little bit catch up in the records, because I was really cold early on. Coyle has a nice little cushion still, I believe, ahead of me. So I'm going Miami of Ohio. I'll take them to cover the spread. I'm going to go over here. The over is 50. I'm going to take the over in this game. Really just kind of expect some action to happen. I would love if this was like a Tuesday night game in November. It's not. It's a Saturday game on ESPNU. I mean, going to definitely be on one of my screens this weekend. But looking ahead, Miami of Ohio has a very tough stretch. They have Toledo. Then they have to go to the Ohio Bobcats next week, who are 5-2. And Ohio is on their side of the MAC. So the next 2 weeks is going to go a very long way for the Redhawks in deciding, where they end up in the MAC and how they finish for the rest of the season. After that, Miami of Ohio plays Akron, who's 1-6, Buffalo, who's 2-5, Ball State, who's 1-6. Not going to give them the kiss of death, but that's just something to monitor down there in Ohio. Miami had the big rivalry game win against Cincinnati, who's now a Power 5 school. So shout out to the Redhawks. Toledo going on the rest of the way. They have Buffalo, Eastern Michigan, Bowling Green, and Central Michigan. So a little bit of a harder schedule. Both the Michigan schools they still have to play have winning records. But this game definitely going a long way for both teams, especially Miami of Ohio, in a year where right now it seems like Air Force has the inside track to get that New Year's 6 bid out of the G5. You win out, you go 12-1 potentially. Obviously that's what they would need to do to even be alive for a spot like that. But I mean, you win this game, you can actually go to the committee or go to the college football playoff, like the top 25 committee, and tell them, hey, we actually have a really good in-conference win. We deserve a shot at one of these big boys in a big-time bowl game.
Yeah, as you touched on, Joe, I'm going to take Toledo to win this one. I'm going to take a lower scoring game, though. Toledo winning on the road 24-14. Toledo -1 and under 50. Big one between the best 2 teams that are looking like so far in the MAC. Like you said, Ohio's kind of lingering there as well. But with these two teams being in separate divisions, there's a chance they meet up down the line again in the MAC title game. So potentially some foreshadowing here. Just some news and nuggets on this game, as probably not many people have watched much Toledo, Miami of Ohio this year. Toledo brings a pretty prolific offense to the table and a very balanced one as well. 459 yards per game, 216 of those in the air, 243 on the ground. Outside of the triple option teams, it's rare to see in college football these days a team that actually averages more rushing yards and passing yards. Guy to watch in this one, Penny Boone, the running back for Toledo. Third most rushing yards in the country, 792 rushing yards on the year, and 8 rushing touchdowns. So that's a guy to certainly watch out in this one. A cool name as well. Miami of Ohio has a solid rush defense, though. 58th best in the country. That's like upper third, allowing 132 yards per game. I think this game's most likely going to come down to if Toledo can run the ball on Miami. I mean, with Penny Boone, as I was talking about, one of the best rushers in the country, if he's able to exploit this Miami of Ohio rush defense, they should be able to be in control of this one and win this game. Toledo's also the 9th best team in the country at converting on third downs in terms of percentage at 52.7% of their third downs they convert. So if they can run the ball, get in those third and manageables, convert those third downs, I think they're going to be able to run clock in this one, really control the tempo and win in this game pretty comfortably. So I'll go Toledo in a low scoring game, a lot of runs, -1 and the under of 50. All right, the ACC now, number 16, Duke. I feel like this is their third time on the show this season for Duke football. That's pretty impressive how many big games that they've been in, and we're only halfway through the year. At number 4, Florida State, 7:30 kickoff on ABC. My Seminoles, a 13.5-point favorite with the over-under sitting at 49. Joe, can Duke pull off another big upset, you think?
Only reason why I say no is because I don't know, if Riley Leonard's playing or not, and if he is, how injured is he? Especially going to Florida State. I mean, they've had to get up twice for big games. Duke has now going to Florida State, night game. Florida State's first big game since that Clemson game. They had a September to remember, but since then, they've had a bye week. Then they hosted Virginia Tech and Syracuse. So Florida State hasn't really been able to flex their muscles for a while. Getting a top 25 team coming to you, being the primetime game on ABC, is definitely a good opportunity for them to really kind of showcase, hey, we deserve this number 4 ranking. They haven't done anything to really show these past couple of weeks, but that's just because of the opportunities that they've had. So I think Florida State's going to, be pretty comfortable in this game just because of I don't know how Riley Leonard, if he plays, how healthy he's going to be. I think Jordan Travis is going to have a very good game, potentially. I think he's, he would need to do too much to win the Heisman at this point, especially with what Penix has done out there in Seattle. But I think he'll have a big game and still, keep up with Drake May for that best QB in the ACC conversation.
Yeah, we know from it, if you're a loyal listener to the show, that Florida State's been my team. I have that 20-1 future ticket on them, and I've been really backing them all year. But I do think Duke could present some challenges for them. I think they could be in the game to actually win it if Riley Leonard's able to play. You never know with those ankle injuries. Everyone kind of heals from those differently. So that is a major thing. The spreads kind of tell me that he probably won't play. And if it's the same quarterback that played last week, Henry Belvin IV, Duke might be in some more trouble in this one. He only went 4 of 12 for 107 yards last week. He did have two of those completions were touchdowns, but he also threw an interception, and he added 28 yards on the ground. But he didn't really need to do that much. He was in just pure game manager mode, I think, with that defense at Duke, which has been pretty legit all year. They held NC State to only 3 points last week. I know NC State's not some superstar offense, but still holding an ACC opponent to only 3 points, that's a pretty impressive feat. So if Belvin does play again and he has to play against this high-powered FSU offense, so that all that good stuff I was just saying about Duke, Florida State is still going to be able to score at some point. There's too many talented future NFL guys on that roster. It's going to be hard for them, I think, to go score for score. Duke does, though, allow only the 4th fewest points per game in the country at 9.83. We talked about the 3 earlier with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. And then in comes Duke. So this is a really legit defense. I'm interested to see if anyone kind of pulls Mike Elko out of Duke or if he stays there and makes his team, a legit ACC contender going forward. But this Duke team wants to keep it as low scoring as possible, and they got to hope Riley Leonard plays to give them just a more dynamic quarterback in the lineup. But at the end of the day, I just think Florida State's offensive talent is just going to be too much. I'm going to take Duke to cover the number, though, with that defense. And then after this, I only see Miami and the University of Florida as potential threats to my Seminoles for that perfect regular season ACC. So you get by this one, and there's just another hurdle that you had to get over. So big game here for Florida State. Can't afford any slip-ups. If you're a one-loss ACC team, I don't think you're going to get into the college football playoff this year. But I'm going to go Florida State with the win, 27-14. So Duke plus 13.5 and the under of 49. All right, last game of the week. We go out west now for the nightcap in the Pac-12 yet again. First time on this show actually making it, but another great Pac-12 game, and we're going to have one, I bet, each and every week going forward. Number 14, Utah at 18, USC. 8 o'clock kickoff on Fox. USC is a 7-point favorite, and the total in this one is 56. Joe, can USC bounce back at home after that disappointing loss to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think they're going to bounce back pretty well, actually. USC has a lot of pissed off energy coming into this game. Not only did Utah beat them twice last year and keep them out of the playoff, they are coming off a huge loss to a rival on the road. The Notre Dame fan who was a scumbag asshole rushing up to Caleb Williams. And I was listening to, a couple of podcasts, and they were talking about this. Caleb Williams should have the right to just punch the dude in the face. Going up after a loss like that and talking, crap right in your face and being, a scumbag. You should get at least one hit. One hit, nothing crazy. You should get one free hit. Then the kid goes, all right, you know what, fair enough. But I think Caleb Williams is going to come out, play really tough. This Utah offense isn't really an offense that scares me. So that's kind of good for USC's defense, which actually didn't play as bad as people think against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense just forced a lot of turnovers, and the special teams really was setting the Irish up in short field positions, which led to a ton of points. I think USC coming back home is going to have a really big game, a game that they need too, because their second half, starting with the Notre Dame game, their schedule of Notre Dame, they have Utah, they get a little bit of a break with Cal, then they finish with Washington, Oregon, UCLA.
Yeah.
An unreal 3-game stretch to end it. Like, that's just brutal. No team in the country is signing up for that. That's
if they play the way they played last week, like, they could easily lose, I think, like 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, we could quickly be talking. If they were to, lose this game and it doesn't look good, you're going to start seeing rumors that Caleb Williams might sit out and start preparing for the draft. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. That being said, though, I think USC is going to bounce back. I think Lincoln Riley is going to get the guys ready to go. I don't see Caleb Williams going out sad like he did last week. I think they're going to be able to handle Utah pretty convincingly and really, right the ship out there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, this spread is just absolutely screaming to me that it's USC and that it really won't even be close. Like, I'm right there with you. I love USC to cover that -7 in this one. There's no way after last week's shit show to Notre Dame that USC should be this big of a favorite. Here they are, so I'm going to take them and ride with that, side with Vegas on this one. I'm going to take USC to win this one by double digits and the over to hit. I'm going to go 40-27, so USC -7 and the over of 56 is my play for this game. Utah in this game still bringing that really good defense to the table, allowing the fifth fewest points per game in the country. So far we've mentioned Duke, Ohio State, Penn State, and Utah. 4 of the top 5, defenses per scoring per game in the country. They're only allowing 12.17 points per game. So we've had some really good defensive units on the show this week. But keep in mind, USC only put up 20 points last week, and the over still hit in the game. That's just how bad the defense is and how terrible Caleb Williams played last week. Like, you just can't take an under with this team. You would not be able to get me to. So wink, wink for my lock of the week, even though I'm continuing to ban myself from that. In 14 of USC's last 15 games, Joe, the over has hit on the total. Like, it's just an insane streak. Lincoln Riley doesn't give a shit about defense. even when his offense doesn't come to play last week, they cough it up enough for the over to hit again. I mean, they just can't stop anything on that side of the ball. And Caleb Williams will go out there and do what Caleb Williams does, I think, even against this really good Utah defense. So I still really like the over hit in this one, 40-27. I have it hitting by 11 points there. I feel like Caleb bounces back in a big way here, and he does it in statement fashion against that really good Utah defense. I know Utah, Joe, won both of those games last year, but I just don't think that they have the horses to go score for score with the Trojans. And they're still missing Cam Rising most likely, which, I mean, it's wild that it sounded like he was going to potentially play in that Florida game. And now it looks like do you even think he's going to play this year? Or does he just sit out and then come back next year for like year 8?
I mean, at this point, why not sit out? With NIL, I think all the Utah players got like free Dodge Rams or something like that. They all got trucks. Why not stay another year? Because you know what's going to happen if he stays next year? People are going to be like, oh my gosh, remember Cam Rising? Especially with going to the Big 12 next year for Utah. With Cam Rising, they have a chance in year 1 to really be difference makers in the new Big 12, Big 16, whatever the heck they're going to call it. But if I'm Cam Rising, I wouldn't come back at this point. The only way I come back if I'm Cam Rising is if Utah pulls off the upset here and, you know, you all of a sudden have a path to another Rose Bowl and potential playoff berth.
Who was their loss to? Washington State?
Was it? No. Who did they lose to? They beat Baylor on the road. They beat Florida. I got to look this up now because it's going to bother me. This is really great podcasting as well as we sit here trying to figure out who Utah lost to.
Oh, Oregon State, 21-7.
Thank you. 21-7 on the road. They were 10th in the country at that point.
That Friday night game.
I mean, Utah has a brutal – they have USC and Oregon back-to-back. But Oregon goes to them. That's going to be – if Utah loses this game, that might be the time to bet the Utes on the spread. Yeah, let's get – what dogs of the day now? I kind of got off track a little bit there.
So I had USC -7 and over 56 is my official plays for that game. Go to the dog of the day now, our underdog money line winner. I've been this was a little bit hypocritical of me on this one because this is another team I've been backing all year with Ole Miss. I'm actually going to take Auburn to beat Ole Miss in Auburn this weekend, +6.5, +210 on the money line. I love my home dogs. And I'm kind of relating this one to the Tennessee-Florida game at the beginning of the year where Florida was a 7-point dog at home to Tennessee in that game. And historically, Florida had just dominated Tennessee at home. Like, I forget what the exact number was, but just an unreal stretch of dominance against them. Auburn has pretty much done the same thing to Ole Miss. Auburn has won 11 of the last 15 games in this matchup, 35-11 all time. They've just really dominated this rivalry. They have their number. And this Auburn team, I don't think is that good. Like, this number should probably be closer to like 9.5, 10, I would think. So this is kind of one of those potential trap games where people are like, oh, you know, Ole Miss, big scoring offense, you know, a highly ranked team against an Auburn team that's really struggling out of the gates, don't have an SEC win. Let's all hop on Ole Miss in this one. No, I think this is a spot where you take Auburn at home. Hugh Freeze revenge game too, and Auburn gets their first SEC win. That's my dog of the day.
My dog of the day, we are going to the Battle of the Bones. I will give someone $5 if they know what rivalry this is before I mention it. But that rivalry is Memphis and UAB. They play for a giant rib trophy, like a rack of ribs. It's a 100-pound trophy. They made up the rivalry for the trophy, at least, I think in the late 90s. I was doing a little bit of research. Wish I could have done this research back in school. But I didn't. I was doing this. So UAB is +205 on the money line. They are +6.5 on the spread. They are at home. Coyle and I both going to the state of Alabama this week. This is just a game where I found out they played for a rack of ribs, and I bet UAB to win because I need a dog, and my dogs have been brutal, like I said at the beginning of the show. Trent Dilfer will probably have another, viral clip of him losing his mind on the sideline at one of his coaches or one of his players. I really hope that happens. It's a noon kick on ESPN2, actually. They know the weight that the Battle of the Bones carries nationwide. That's why that's a national TV game. and it's a blackout. I looked on UAB; they're doing a blackout 12 o'clock. Weird move to do a blackout at high noon when you're down in Alabama, but to each their own. So shout out the Blazers. I think they're going to get us one the hard way, and I'm really feeling confident about this dog.
All right, and then as we said earlier, I'm still banning myself from locks of the week besides USC overs. So Joe, lock of the week, Mr. 7 out of 8, I believe it is. Let's give it to us. Well, what's the people's play?
So I was between two plays. Coyle last night when he was at the Phillies game actually texted me about one of them because he was surprised, and it was an ugly one. I'm staying away from that one. I was going to go Iowa to cover 3.5, but Iowa might only score 3 points in the game and win 3-0. So that's not my lock of the week. My official lock of the week for week 8 of the college football season is Oklahoma minus 18.5 at home versus UCF. They're both teams coming off a bye, but I think the bye is definitely going to do more to help Oklahoma because they were able to get their partying, oh my God, we just beat Texas, out of the way in the bye. They were able to refocus. I think Brett Venables really is going to get his guys together because if you look at Oklahoma's schedule, besides Texas, it might be one of the worst in the Power 5 with just, how they drew the Big 12 schedule. The Big 12 also outside of those two is really down this year. But their non-conference was soft, and that wasn't their fault. They were supposed to play Georgia, but now that they're going to the SEC, they weren't able to play that game. But so Oklahoma really needs to be perfect the rest of the way going into the Big 12 title game, where I think they're going to end up rematching with Texas. But there's a chance Oklahoma could win against Texas in the Big 12 title game and lose, not win. If they won, obviously they'd get in. They could lose, be 12-1, and they might be left out of the playoff because their schedule is just that weak. Mm-hmm. So I really think they're going to have to continue to, put up style points. UCF, having to go to Oklahoma, they're in the Big 12 now, and all the new Big 12 teams are quickly realizing what Power 5 football is all about. But I just think UCF, they got smoked at Kansas. And if they think that was a tough road environment, wait till you go to Norman, where, kind of like I said, there is a whole new shot of rejuvenation after that Texas win. I think Oklahoma can win this game by 21 with ease. And I think that's going to kind of be where it's about. I could see UCF making a little bit of a late push. But also, I hate UCF because they ruined my streak. If it wasn't for UCF, I would be 7-1. I'm 6-2 on the season with my locks. We're going for 7. Really love the Sooners here.
All right, well, there it is, the people's play. Oklahoma minus 18.5 versus UCF. All right, well, that'll do it for another week here, week 8. And then I was already kind of peeking into the games next week. We have some more good ones coming up next week, Joe. We have the Oregon-Utah game. We have Georgia-Florida, with Florida playing a lot better. Tennessee-Kentucky should be a good one. We got some more good games coming up next week, Joe. So as you're saying, we've been kind of spoiled, and hopefully we continue to be spoiled throughout the rest of the year. But any last second comments before we head out?
Coyle, you said it best. Let's keep it rolling. College football is blessing us with our finite football weeks and our finite times with football. College football has been blessing us with great games. Keep it going. Let's all get locked in. Let's all win our bets this weekend. Let's have a great week, and we'll talk again next week.
All right, well, that'll do it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk next week.